I never imagined I'd end up at odds with the president of our homeowners association, but here we are. My name's Daniel, and I've been living in Sunnyside Estates for about 3 years. It's your typical suburban neighborhood. Neatly trimmed lawns, identical houses, and unfortunately, an HOA led by the most power-hungry woman I've ever met, Karen Wilkinson. Karen's in her mid-50s, with that classic blonde bob that seems like a badge of office in suburban HOA circles. From the very first week I moved in, it was obvious that being HOA president wasn't just a role for her, it was her whole personality. Every conversation with her felt less like a neighborly check-in and more like a summons to the principal's office. If the principal happened to be intoxicated with a small taste of authority. Things really kicked off when I decided to do some work in the backyard. Nothing outrageous, just a new deck, a small vegetable garden, and a pergola for shade. I followed all the HOA guidelines, submitted the plans, waited the 30-day approval window, and got written confirmation that everything was good to go. I even hired licensed contractors who were used to working in HOA-heavy neighborhoods. Construction began on a Tuesday morning. By Wednesday afternoon, there was a loud, impatient knock on my front door. "I need to speak with the homeowner immediately," came a sharp voice. When I opened the door, there was Karen, clipboard in hand, wearing a fitted blazer like she was about to conduct a corporate audit. Her face wore a scowl so practiced, I imagined she rehearsed in the mirror. "Good afternoon, Karen," I greeted her, trying to keep things civil, even as my stomach tightened. "What can I do for you today?" Her eyes narrowed. "That's Mrs. Wilkinson to you. I'm here on official HOA business." She tried to look past me into the house. "I received reports about unauthorized construction in your backyard." I stayed calm, though I could already feel the irritation creeping in. "If you're referring to the renovation, I've got written approval from the board. Would you like to see the documentation?" "I am the board." She snapped like she was channeling a low-budget version of a Game of Thrones character. "And I don't recall approving any vegetable garden. Gardens attract pests. Pests lower property values." Without missing a beat, I went to my office and brought her the paperwork. "Page 2, paragraph 3, I pointed out. The garden was specifically approved by 3 board members, including the vice president." She scanned the document, clearly hoping to find a loophole she could exploit. After a few seconds, she shoved the papers back into my hands. "These may be approved," she said coldly, "but I still have concerns about county health codes. Vegetables can attract rodents and insects. You're putting the entire community at risk." I couldn't help but laugh, just a little. "It's a standard garden, Mrs. Wilkinson. Nothing illegal. Everything is up to code and within county regulations." Her cheeks flushed with anger. "We'll see about that," she muttered before stomping off my porch. I figured that would be the end of it, just another power trip. But I was wrong. The very next day, I was in the backyard with my contractor, going over where to install the pergola, when we heard it. "Excuse me," a voice barked. "This construction site is now under investigation by the county health department." The next day, I thought maybe things had cooled down until I saw Karen standing at my back gate. Only this time, she had a new prop, a laminated badge clipped to her blazer that read County Health Inspector in bold letters. My contractor, Mike, and I exchanged confused looks as she let herself into my yard uninvited, striding in like she owned the place. She pulled out a notepad and started scribbling furiously. "I'm conducting an official inspection," she declared loudly, making sure her voice carried over the fence. A couple of neighbors peeked out from their yards. I received multiple complaints about potential health hazards on this property. Mike, who'd been working in this county for over 20 years, leaned toward me and whispered, "I've never seen her before, and I know every health inspector in the area." That's when I looked more closely at her badge. The county name was slightly misspelled. The photo? It looked like a selfie taken against a plain white wall. My stomach turned. This wasn't just Karen being overly dramatic. This was Karen crossing a legal line. "May I take a closer look at your ID?" I asked calmly, holding out my hand. Karen instantly pulled the badge back like it was sacred. "You may not touch official county property," she said with a theatrical sense of offense. "I'm issuing a cease and desist order on this construction until further notice." She pulled out a document that looked official at first glance. It had a county logo at the top. But something about it felt off. The paper looked like it had been photocopied, and the formatting was inconsistent. What specific health code violations are you citing? I asked, casually pulling out my phone and hitting the record button. She hesitated for a second before snapping back into character. Section 8.5 of the County Health Code clearly prohibits standing water and exposed soil within 20 feet of residential structures due to mosquito breeding risks. She waved her pen vaguely toward my unfinished garden beds. This is a clear violation. Mike couldn't stay silent any longer. Ma'am, I built hundreds of projects in this county. That rule doesn't exist, not for residential properties. That's for commercial kitchens or food service areas. Karen's face turned a shade redder, but she didn't back down. Are you questioning a county official? That could result in additional fines and penalties. She turned to me with a smug look. I'll be reporting this hostile environment to my supervisor. You can expect formal citations within 3 business days. All work must stop immediately. And with that, she marched out. Mike looked at me, his expression serious. She's not a health inspector. What she's doing, that's a crime. Impersonating a government official, that's big trouble. I nodded and showed him the video I had just recorded. I think it's time we get the real health department involved. The next morning, I called the county offices. After being transferred a few times, I reached someone at the actual health department. I explained what happened and emailed them the video. They were concerned, to say the least. True to their word, by 2 p.m. that afternoon, an official county vehicle pulled up in front of my house. 2 people stepped out. A woman in a professional pantsuit who introduced herself as Diana Roberts, senior health inspector for the county, and a police officer named Sergeant Thomas. I showed them the cease and desist order Karen had left behind. Diana examined it and immediately shook her head. This isn't even our current letterhead, she said. And that's not a valid citation number. It's completely fake. Impersonating a health official is a criminal offense. We take that very seriously, Diana said, her voice calm but unmistakably firm. I invited her and Sergeant Thomas inside and offered them something to drink. While they settled in, I walked them through everything. Karen's history of power trips, her obsession with HOA rules, and now this impersonation stunt. And right on cue, there was a knock at the door. I didn't even need to check. I knew it was her, probably stopping by to confirm I'd shut everything down like she ordered. But when I opened the door and stepped aside to reveal Diana and Sergeant Thomas standing behind me, the look on Karen's face was priceless. She cycled through smugness, confusion, and then sheer panic, all within a few seconds. Mrs. Wilkinson, Diana said, professional and composed. I'm Diana Roberts, senior health inspector for the county. This is Sergeant Thomas. We need to speak with you about the inspection you claimed to conduct yesterday. Karen went pale. I don't know what you're talking about, she stammered. I was just checking on some HOA compliance issues. Sergeant Thomas stepped forward. Ma'am, we have video evidence of you identifying yourself as a county health inspector and issuing a fraudulent cease and desist order. We need to take you down to the station for questioning. Karen's voice rose an octave, panicked and defensive. This is ridiculous. I'm the president of the HOA. I was just trying to maintain standards. Daniel has been breaking several bylaws. But Sergeant Thomas didn't flinch. Impersonating a government official is a felony, he said evenly. So is creating and distributing falsified government documents. Please turn around and place your hands behind your back. Karen's eyes went wide. For the first time, she looked genuinely stunned. You can't be serious. Over a garden? Do you know who my husband is? He golfs with Judge Peterson. Diana didn't waver. This isn't about a garden, Mrs. Wilkinson. This is about you fraudulently presenting yourself as a public official and abusing that authority. That is serious offense with serious consequences. As Sergeant Thomas read Karen her rights, several neighbors had gathered on their front lawns to watch the commotion unfold. I didn't feel any sense of victory, just a strange, quiet relief. Maybe her hold over the neighborhood was finally coming to an end. 3 weeks later, I got a notice about an emergency HOA meeting. Karen had been removed from the board, effective immediately. She was facing criminal charges for impersonating a government official, charges that could carry fines up to $20,000 and even jail time. According to some of the neighbors, her lawyer was working out a plea deal that would likely result in probation, community service, and a $5,000 fine. But her reputation? Completely destroyed. The final nail in the coffin came during that emergency HOA meeting. While discussing the fallout from Karen's actions, the interim board president revealed that during the investigation, that also discovered Karen had used HOA funds to pay for her personal landscaping. Not only had she been abusing power, she'd been stealing from the community. As the board laid out the legal mess we were now responsible for cleaning up, I glanced at the back of the room. There she was, Karen, no longer seated at the head of the table, where she'd once ruled with an iron fist. She sat alone in the last row, frozen, eyes fixed on nothing, like she couldn't quite believe any of this was real. Her perfectly styled bob couldn't hide the tears running down her face. She clutched her designer handbag. The one she used to brag was paid for with her HOA president's stipend. A stipend, it turned out, that didn't actually exist.